All right. So back from dinner, and now we're gonna cut a small piece of 1/64 plywood, and what we'll do is we're gonna just make a little facing around this piece here. So I try to just pre-bend it a little bit because it will crack sometimes. So what I'll do is I'm gonna put the seam right up at the top, and really the bottom, technically. Alright, it's less likely to pick the seam up where it is. So just kind of take this piece and carefully put it in. And what I kind of do so you just fit it in piece by piece. So what I'll do is I'll go past the seam a little bit. And what I'll do is just tack it in here. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Just kind of feed it in carefully while fitting it up here. And what I do is kind of just look, make sure the gap is tight, push down in that corner. Try not to shoot the CA all over her nose. And glue your fingers too. And so just fit it up here a little bit. And even if the piece cracks a little bit, it doesn't really matter because you can kind of fit it into where you want anyway. Okay. All right. Just kind of hold it in place for a second, let the glue kick off. Yeah. So I'm just going to fit it around the last piece. Here's where I always mess it up and cut it short. Alright, let me just use my scissors. Scissors. Alright, so you cut it, push it down in there. And like I said, lining it with 1/64 plywood is great because it really just stiffens it up and creates a nice, good hard edge. And of course, I have a little piece that I missed on. What we can do is just cut a piece and fit it in. And what we'll do is just run a glue seam around it. Really just make sure it's good in there. So once that dries up for a few minutes, the next step is to kind of just grind this down. Again, Dremel's a great tool for it, kind of just working the edges down. All right. All right, well, I'll do the grinding down off camera probably. Makes a bunch of noise and stuff. All right, so the last piece of today, or one of the last things I want to get done today, is cut out. I don't know how you can see it, but I marked it. Really just cut it out for an outlet. And I'm going to do a very similar thing I did to the front NACADUC. I'm going to cut 3 sides and kind of force it down, and then I'll fill the sides in. But I also got to make it so I can also get a timer in here too. Be able to put a plywood mount in for the timer, so could be a little tricky. All right, let's see what we have here. And just cut it down. It's always tough when you get to the middle seam because that's where you got extra glue in there and stuff. Okay. You may have to cut this one all the way up because there may be a former stuck. Oh, maybe not. Right. There's that former right there. Good. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is cut it off straight now, this mount. So I can push it to the wing floor. So. Okay. Alright, not bad. So what I want to do is, so on the bottom of this, I want to cut this back. So here's a trick without breaking it off. Alright, so I got the outlet cut already. You look. It's already cut out in there. And air will come through here, it'll come through the top, and it'll go right in through here. I gotta just cut out the bottom of the bulkhead former right before the wing. I'll cut out some nice D shapes there, and the air will then be forced to go up around the wing and out. So all I have to do is just cosmetically fill the sides in here, seal it off. There's a former here. I'm going to seal everything off too. And yeah. All right, so now I got to work on the cutting out. I got to cut out the former front. I got to cut it out a little bit, and I'll make a timer mount. Timer mount is just really just a piece of. I use a piece of 1/8 plywood, and just really make sure just 5-minute epoxy it to the wing in a really tight spot. Okay. Let me just get it up. Like I said, there's a former right here, which is okay. Now I'll cut it off with the hole because I will tie it to it. All right, pretty good. I think I have it. What happens when you work in a small shop? There's never enough room. All right, so for the timer mount, I'm gonna use a small piece of plywood. I'm just gonna trim this up to what I want, and I'm also gonna put a hole in it for the bell crank mount. The bell crank mount comes right through this spot over here. So I'm gonna put a hole in it, so kind of, I'll also get a little bit extra support for the bell crank on it as well. All right. All right, let me just square it up. I'm just going to measure for the hole. Three-eighths, quarter. All right, so 3/8 of an inch by a quarter is where the hole has to go. Okay. Snap punch it. But it's just a small plywood mount, and what I do is double stick tape the timer to it, and put it in a place where it's pretty accessible and you get to it. All right, so let me just drill it. All right. Just see how it fits up. I just want to oversize that hole a little bit. Just wanted to give a little clearance. One of my challenges always is sometimes I make things try to make things too precise at times. And sometimes you just need a little bit of clearance. So we take a little bit off the back. It's touching. You want it to sit as flat as it can. Take a little bit off. Do that in my little table saw. Got to take about maybe a 16th off. And again, one of the things I try to always do is I try to get all my tools set up that I can use them pretty quickly and effectively. Okay, I'll take a little more. Just about got it. All right. All right, so these are the little things you got to get done on a plane. These things sometimes are really time consuming, and they don't really show much, you know. It's not much progress, but it's old stuff that's got to be done. All right, that's pretty good. Pretty close. You're going to clean up the spot down there. Clean it up down here. All right. So while I'm doing this, you know, in order to hopefully everyone gets something out of it, I was going to kind of talk as I'm doing this up. Talk about practice flying. So not only will you get some building tips, you'll get some practice tips, maybe. So, you know, a lot of people ask, like, how do you practice, you know, and you got to make the most out of your time. For me, I got to make the absolute most. I don't have as much free time. So I gotta maximize my time, whether it be building or practicing, right? I really got to figure out to achieve the most out of what I'm going to get for a session. So it takes a little bit of planning. So what I would say is, especially for practice, is the number one thing, have a plan. You know, go out with a set of things that you want to accomplish. And it could be varying. It could be working on, you could say, I want to work on the trim of the plane, you know, or I want to work on my pattern, or it could even be I want to work on certain maneuvers, or it could be I want to try, you know, I want to experiment and try something, you know. So the best, you know, if you take the time and you lay out what I call a practice plan, you'll make the most out of your time and hopefully get something out of it. You know, and what I'll do, especially at the beginning of the season like it is now, you know, I haven't actually flown yet this year, which is actually surprising for me. But I'll usually go out the first, you know, we get a nice day here. I'll probably go out in the next week or so. We get a decent day up over 50 degrees, you know, wind's not terrible. I'll go out and probably practice. And what I'll do is I'll take an already known plane usually. plane that's already in trim, and I'll go out and I'll just work on, you know, getting the rust out, flying some patterns. You know, my main goal is to kind of just, for that first session, is to kind of just get back into it, you know, and just get the feel back again. And then typically this time of the year, I'm either bringing out a new plane where you're going to work on trim stuff. But it's always good to fly a known quantity plane so that you get a feel for it and you kind of know what the conditions are. But usually, like I said, I'm taking out a new plane. Like I will be taking out at least one this year, if not two. My first session is really just focusing on getting the trim close. And what do I mean? So first thing is getting the lap time set. Electric's pretty easy. 1 minute flight, minute and a half flight. Kind of set your RPM, get your lap time where you want it. And then really working on leveling the wings. You know, Paul Walker wrote a great, he has a flow chart that really talks about trimming. You have great articles on Stunt News. So if you're not a Pampa member, join Pampa and, you know, look up Paul Walker's articles on trimming planes. Really helpful, great, a lot of good stuff in there. But yeah, so the first session for me is always working on the basics, getting the wings level, you know, feeling the plane out. How does it corner? How do rounds feel? Really just an exploratory bunch of flights. I'm not looking to, you know, drive patterns in the 4 feet. Really just getting the feel of the plane, checking the tip weight, lead out rate, kind of working through a bunch of things. But I always work on getting the wings level first. And then after I get that, I look for equal tension in maneuvers. I want to see if, you know, flying upright has the same tension as inverted, right? Just looking to see if you got a little bit of a flap thing going on. And then inside and outside maneuver, especially in a round, you can feel it start to float a little bit if you have a flap problem. But that's kind of what I do in the first few sessions. And then once I get the trim down where the plane is flyable and it's stable and I'm happy with some of the track, and then I kind of work on, you know, not really working on my pattern, I work on the plane performance. You know, what do I want the feel to be? You know, how is it tracking? You know, I work on those things, right? Little trim changes sometimes big trim changes. But the first 3 sessions or so are really just focused on the plane, getting it right, because it's pretty critical. All right. So yeah, so the timer mount's ready to go. I'm going to glue it in. I don't think anybody wants to watch glue dry, but I'll glue it in, and I got to trim out the inlet here, and then I'm just going to box in the remainder of this outlet, make it look pretty in there. I'll put some filler wood in there so the air is driven. The air kind of forces itself through this nose, down through the bottom, and out there, right? And it'll go right through the ESC, right through the motor, because the spinner will have some cutouts in it, and the top NACA duct on top will drive air through the battery. The battery will come in right through the battery and then down and out. So all the critical components will have air going through them. All right, so hope you enjoyed this session. We're getting down. I only got a few more things to do here. Once we get all these holes done, I still got to do. Next session I'll probably get to fillets, and then really it's just preparing for the finish. Once, you know, I'll, like I said, hopefully this weekend I'll get silver on it, and I'll be working on sanding the silver out. And then I plan on doing an entire session on the paint mask, showing how I do it. All right, so thanks for watching, and hope you guys got something out of it. And again, like and subscribe if you like the videos. Also, feedback's a gift, so if you have any comments or how I could do this better, let me know. Thanks for watching.